Welcome to Overwatch, and welcome to a video that's going to be all about judging your own performance, because I noticed something when I was playing it's just a bunch of SoloQ ranked, and I noticed that a lot of people were picking Junkrat, and I started to think, well, why are you picking Junkrat? He's a good pick on some maps, he's a good pick on some areas, he has his niche role as sort of spamming a choke, but why would you pick Junkrat? Where would you pick Junkrat, and why would you stick on Junkrat as well for like the entire map when he sort of outlived his usefulness, and they've got a lot of characters that are very good at beating him? And I got to think that it's probably because, well, a lot of people have this very sort of, I don't know, misguided idea of judging their own performance, and the tools that the game gives you to judge your own performance aren't that great in some cases. So for example, what I've done here is I've gone into quick play, so this is a quick play match on Volskaya, and I'm just playing Junkrat, and I'm playing Junkrat to prove a point. This point is simply that Junkrat should be top damage. You should be on highest damage on Junkrat, especially if they're running some tanks. If they're running a Reinhardt, you'll be laughing. You'll just be constantly spamming away, constantly getting AoE damage, and you should be first on damage as Junkrat. If you're not first on damage as Junkrat, there's kind of a problem going on, honestly. And this is the thing, like the people who are playing Junkrat in these matches felt that they were still contributing a huge amount, you know, that Junkrat's putting out a lot of damage, that he's putting out a lot of zone control perhaps, and a lot of area denial. But what's actually happening is he's not getting any kills, he's charging the enemy team's ultimates nice and quickly, and he's putting damage out, but it's not the damage that is needed. It's not the damage that can efficiently end a fight and efficiently win the game, and it makes it very difficult to win from that point. And so it sort of raises this entire discussion of, well, how do you judge your performance? How do you know when to swap? Where do you swap? How do you swap? And when would you pick someone like Junkrat, for example? Now, the thing that I try and keep track of is sort of how many kills am I getting? How many kills am I actually confirming as well? So for one reason why I don't play Widowmaker for a lot, for example, is because sure, I can hit targets on Widowmaker. I can hit about 60% of my shots on Widowmaker. It feels quite nice when I play it. But it doesn't get kills. I'm hitting targets, but nothing is dying. And so that's not very useful, you know. I'm actually just putting damage out there. Their healers are soaking up and loving, and then they're just charging up. Now, of course, I'm also playing Junkrat into a Zarya here. When you are playing Junkrat into a Zarya, by the way, you've got to just start disrespecting barriers and just start blowing her up. Like, she's going to have 100% charge no matter what, but you can put out so much hurt into her because she's such a big, meaty Russian target that you can just kill her pretty quickly without too many issues as well. Otherwise, I'm just going to be using it for zone control primarily. I also imagine that some people are also picking it, perhaps as a counter to Genji, so I've been seeing him a lot on King of the Hill as well. Junkrat on King of the Hill, again, is kind of a mixed bag. I think I'd still prefer something like a Reaper if you want to have close area zone control, or a McCree if you want to have more medium to long range zone control and be able to shut down flankers, for example, shut down a Genji. Because while the trap can catch Genji, like, you've got to get him into the trap, and in King of the Hill, there's actually not that many choke points. Like, there's a lot more open space to fight through. Now, sure, there are a couple of choke points, but they're usually spammed through, so all your sort of hard-worked and hard-placed traps are going to get blown up immediately, so that's not too big of a factor in there. And as a result, you're probably going to struggle. And also, like, Genji, if you get Genji in a trap, all he's going to do is reflect, and then he'll survive, and he'll actually be able to outlast the trap and then dash away to safety. If he dashes through the trap and gets caught in it, again, he can just reflect and then start double jumping out with once that reflect is done. There are way better counters for the Genji than just relying on Junkrat's traps. But like I said, if you're trying to assess how you're doing, you've got to have a good feel for what is the average job of this character, what is their average role. So for example, if I'm playing Zarya, I honestly expect my damage to be second, third, maybe first, sometimes depends on the team lineup, depends on how the enemy team is moving and engaging, but because Zarya can deal so much AoE damage, because you can have such high charge, you can actually be really high in the scoreboard, and that's honestly fairly standard. You're also there just to like melt tanks. If they have a diva, for example, you should be really high up there. Same for Roadhog, by the way. You should be looking at first, second place on DPS, especially if they have a Reinhardt, because you just want to be slapping damage into that barrier. There's nothing that tilts me harder. Well, there might be one or two things that tilt me harder, actually, just to be honest, but there's a couple, well, very few things that tilt me more than a Roadhog that just seems, I don't know, nervous about shooting Reinhardt barriers. That's your job, Roadhog. Like, you get picks and you make Reinhardt barriers go down fast. That's what I want out of a Roadhog. Ah, sad days. Like, that's just some SoloQ frustration coming out. But yeah, like, just keep track of the kills that you're getting if you're playing a DPS class, and make sure that you are killing consistently. Make sure that when an opportunity feels like it's arisen, are kills being confirmed? So for example, if a Graviton Surge has come up, but no one's died, then clearly something is wrong with the DPS, or maybe the Graviton was in a bad place, but it's usually a sign that, hey, the DPS might not be as effective as it could be. Same with, you know, if there's an Earth Shadow, if you can't capitalize on it, if they make a mistake positioning, if the Reinhardt barrier is surviving far longer than it feels like it should, then perhaps your DPS options aren't as great as they could be. So for example, I have this with Hanzos a lot, where they're spamming away and saying, yeah, I'm doing great damage, but it's all into a Reinhardt barrier and it's all going fairly slowly, and then when the Reinhardt barrier goes down, they can't confirm any kills. And as a result, it just becomes sort of this non-pick, this non-useful, non-contributing factor that is totally reliant on a Graviton Surge, for example, to get any value out of the ultimate. And it's just one of those things of just being constantly sort of self-analytical, because as you can see, they're pushing in, and I'm dealing a huge amount of damage on the push. I'm forcing them to use abilities, forcing them to use defensive cooldowns, forcing them to make difficult decisions, but they're still just pushing in. Like, they're still just running forward because they have a lot of healing on their side. They have two big meaty tanks that are dealing a lot of damage back, and we have no way of really slowing them down. And I was quite glad, by the way, to see that this team, you know, they didn't play quick play where you have like 4 of the same character. They just played as if, you know, but there was a 1 hero limit. I love that 1 hero limit now. I'm just a staunch convert on it in practically all factors. And yeah, it's such a fascinating thing to me, because if you are in that situation where it feels like, well, if I was playing McCree, like, how much damage would I be doing? If I was playing Soldier, how much damage would I be doing? How many kills would I be getting? How many people will be going down? Where is the contribution going? And you can see there, like, Genji just literally moved around my trap. Like, I had no way of forcing him into it there, and they've just moved on to the point here with a sound barrier, and suddenly I have no way of slowing the momentum. That Graviton Surge was so good. I'm so disappointed I didn't get more value out of that, because it was literally right on top of my corpse. That could have been so huge, it could have been so enormous. But yeah, this has been a quick video about sort of keeping track of your own metrics and making sure that you understand, or at least the idea that these metrics aren't the greatest tool in the world for determining how well you're doing, aren't a great tool sometimes for determining how much character is contributing, because these characters should be getting gold on damage even if they are contributing, and when they're not, they're still getting gold on damage. It's just not having that high impact. Anyway, thank you for watching to the end. I've been Josh's One Voice of X-Men. It's been a quick video on the idea of, I don't know, predetermined medals almost, I guess we could go with that. Let's run with that, that'll do. Hopefully it was somewhat informative, hopefully provide some extra clarity. Toodles.